Woody Allen's new film, Cafe Society, opened the Cannes Film Festival, and on the same day, The Hollywood Reporter published an essay by his son, Ronan Farrow. Here's the headline: My Father, Woody Allen, and the Danger of Questions Unasked. In the essay, Farrow brought up allegations that Allen molested his sister, Dylan, when she was 7 years old. Allen has denied those claims. Ronan Farrow also criticized the media for tiptoeing around the allegations, saying that Woody Allen and his stars can trust that the press won't ask them the tough questions at Cannes. Stephen, how do you think the media at film festivals should handle the allegations about Woody Allen?
Look, it's really easy to blame this vague numinous force out there called the media, but the truth is, I'm not sure what they were supposed to do. I mean, the allegations against Woody Allen were in Vanity Fair. They were, as you said, on the cover of the Hollywood Reporter. The New York Times columnist gave over two columns to Farrow,
Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there isn't actually a lot much more space that this story can have, and obviously, when you're at a little movie thing, these accusations of very serious sexual assault against children are much more serious than just the release of a silly little comedy. But on the other hand, it's hard to see what the moment is. It's hard to see. I take the point of view of the journalist too. It's like, what am I supposed to write that anyone will be interested in reading that connects that story, which everybody knows and everybody has their own opinion about already, and which also, is not going to court, so there's not going to be any more information about it. Mm-hmm. It's hard to know what to report.
I should add here that Woody Allen was asked about the allegations at Cannes, and he said, quote, I said everything I had to say about that whole issue in the New York Times. I said I was never going to comment on it again. Allen wrote a piece for the Times in 2014. He denied the allegations. He called them ludicrous. Rachel, is it fair game to bring up Dylan Farrow's allegations at a film festival?
I mean, I think it's fair game to bring up anything, right? I mean, I think that somebody is there and it's in the news. I mean, one thing I think is interesting is that particularly the women that work with Woody Allen get asked about it all the time. So, Kristen Stewart, who's in Cafe Society, gets asked about it. And I think in lots of ways, women get asked about it. His female collaborators get asked about it more than men do. So, Alec Baldwin has been asked and Adrian Brody's been asked. But people like Cate Blanchett, particularly like a lot of, feminist publications sort of wonder, how do you work with this guy who's been accused of these things and who, in a lot of his films has also explored slightly creepy themes about, May, December, romances in his films. And so, do you want to be the next starlet who goes in playing the love interest to, Woody Allen's, increasingly elderly Lothario? But I think that it's not that people, what bugs me in a way is not so much the reporters don't ask Allen, but that they ask these women and almost hold his female collaborators more accountable than they hold Woody Allen himself or the other men. I mean, Steve Carell was not at Cannes, but, he's in the movie. He's not being asked about it. Kristen Stewart is. And so it sort of feels like, why is this 25-year-old woman, being asked tougher questions than the actual director who was actually accused of sexual abuse?
Max, what do you think in terms of the media's responsibilities around this?
Well, first out, shout out to Susan Sarandon, because this whole situation is just very telling of this boys club that is Hollywood. They will put women on the spot, like Blake Lively, asking her about the situation. And obviously, Blake, she did Gossip Girl. She's still on the come up. She's still building her resume. So she's not going to be like, oh, I think this way or this way. She's going to make a comment like, oh, I didn't go through anything on the set of this movie. I think Woody Allen empowers women, which I heard that and I felt like my eyes were like when your Max going slow, like the wheel of death. I was just like, I was like, that's clearly not how you feel. But if you think of any arts or music community where it's like, a girl accuses like the head of a label or like a gallery owner of a situation, it's like you have to tread lightly because that could be your career on the line. And when you're dealing with one of the most renowned directors in the game, someone who has a huge history, it's like, yeah, it's a very creepy history, but unfortunately, when younger actresses are put on the spot and asked about these things, they're going to tiptoe around the truth.
Is that what you read into their responses as well, Blake Lively and Kristen Stewart?
Yeah,
Rachel?
and I also think that I mean, it's interesting because Ronan Farrow wrote that piece in response to a very fawning profile of Woody Allen in the Hollywood Reporter. So Ronan Farrow came back and said, "Listen, quit with the fawning." And then immediately after that, Woody Allen's publicist shut out all Hollywood Reporter journalists from a Woody Allen event in retaliation. I mean, the publicist actually said, this is in retaliation. You say something bad about Woody Allen, you're not getting access. So when those sorts of messages are out there, I think it makes sense that a lot of women in Hollywood who still don't have the same number of roles, who still don't get paid the same, who still don't have positions as directors and executives, they're a tiny, tiny minority. I think it's really hard to be a woman in Hollywood, and I think it would make them fearful of speaking out.
Sometimes these people we think are powerful are actually in precarious situations. We don't realize.
I mean, again, Kristen Stewart has made a lot of money. I'm not sort of, I'm not sort of worried about her future. But I do think that she is somebody who has a career in a particular kind of field and wants to protect it. And she mentioned that she and Jesse Eisenberg, who's also in the movie, had talked about it, and then he disavowed that they actually had a conversation about the ethics of working with Woody Allen. So I do think that there is a stepping around it. Whether he's guilty of these accusations or not, I think that there's a fear that you can't say anything about him.
Stephen, is that why you think comments like Sarandon's that we played off the top are so uncommon?
Well, I mean, I think we've all done access journalism, right? I mean, even in our own little way, we've seen how to make deals to talk to celebrities, even to talk to celebrities requires this huge negotiation, this huge system. And so, I mean, I think the probable truth is that whenever you're doing anything in Hollywood, you're doing something that's ethically dubious. Right? You're constantly making concessions for money or for fame or for all sorts of other things that are impure. And it is a very impure process. And so, for these actresses, for these artists who want to make art, they're constantly making compromises of one kind or another. This is just inevitable. And so this is just one other. It's just that we happen to notice it because it's so glaring.
Well, I think the dialogue's still important to have, though, because, I mean, at the end of the day, this is why we're in a situation where Bill Cosby, you can't turn around with someone being like, oh, Bill Cosby this or Bill Cosby that, because we're not having women like Susan Sarandon just come out and be like, okay, this is what's going on, and you guys should really look at this guy who you think is amazing. Because that's just Hollywood in a nutshell. It's this guy that you think is amazing ends up being the biggest creep.
And how many times have we been on this show and had exactly this thing where it's oh, wait a minute, Dr. Luke, is that uncommon? Probably not. And right?
We've been talking about the media's responsibility. We've been talking about artists' responsibilities. What about moviegoers? I mean, should moviegoers in general be reconsidering their embrace of Woody Allen?
It's pretty hard for me. I mean, I love Chinatown. Roman Polanski did a lot of bad things to a lot of people, right? It's separating the artist from the art. I just think you have to do it, because if you don't, then you won't read or you basically won't read or watch anyone. Right, because no one is morally pure, right? And certainly most interesting people are not morally pure.